Okay. It's wonderful to meet you, Jennifer. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thanks, Joe.
You bet. So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. I always start with this. I've tried to get rid of this question, but it's just too important. 5 years ago, this pandemic was
Mm.
raging, and especially, in Florida, everybody's response was different everywhere. How did you ultimately survive the pandemic of 2020, and how has it affected the way that you do work today?
Yeah, I love the question. So at the time, I'm brand new to Florida. I was living in Northern Virginia. I was in a career of 26 years of supporting the federal government. I sold hardware and software. I was in a leadership role. My company was trying to go public, had the intention of going public, and the world shut down. So I actually had just started there February 28th, and the world closed 2 weeks later. And it's really hard to lead a sales organization in a high performance with a lot of goals and desire to go public, a lot of pressure, if you will. The world closed. The good thing was is the company was 100% virtual, so we didn't have to relocate or find places to work. We were set up on Zoom with the criteria of being online all the time. However, the government did close and there was fear and there was overwhelm. And at the same time, I also was a yoga teacher. I fell in love with yoga. Yoga literally saved my life during my own midlife crisis a few years prior. So the studio that I taught at did close, and my clients were messaging me saying, well, can you just teach yoga on Zoom? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't even know how to teach yoga on Zoom, much less put my face in my body. I wasn't like like an influencer or something that was used to being
Yep.
on these social media platforms. So I said no for a couple days, and then I realized how scared and scary the whole thing was. The loneliness, the depression, the overwhelm, the frustration, just the sheer level of fear. Everyone shifts into fight, flight, freeze mode. And I ended up taking my phone out and recorded maybe a 3 minute sequence and was like, here you go. Like, that's all I can give. Like, I mean, come on, I'm in a pandemic too. Why are you
Yeah.
asking me? Like, I'm not pandemic first responder trained. I am freaking out with my kids. Then my kids also at the time were, I don't know, eighth grade and ninth grade. And we'd be on Zoom and they'd be like in outside my office yelling and fighting because they're not in school and they're trying to figure out their life too. It was just a total chaos. The good news is I figured out very quickly that the world needed stabilizing and grounding, which yoga offers. And so in my old office space, I just turned on my camera and started teaching on a yoga mat. Literally, and the space would have been like right behind me. And I did 90 classes for free on Zoom. And the turnout was wildly amazing. And I was getting cards and gifts and letters. Like, I'm a superhero. I'm not trying to be completely humbled by the whole experience, but it was literally saving people's lives. Literally just having a sacred space and allowing a consistent schedule of somewhere people could show up and know that they were good and that they could see other smiling faces and move through the fear. So I believe movement is the medicine today. That's what I've come to learn. And so we move together. What I find that literally where I'm at today in my life, because the pandemic was such a force for good for me, I ended up building a business. My yoga, health, and wellness and coaching business was birthed through the pandemic. So I left my corporate job 2 years ago now because I fell in love with the offering to be with people, helping heal and facilitate the healing process through the movement practice. So I know a lot of the world struggled. I crushed it. I fell in love and found a whole new path of a new life for me, and here we are today. And really, the pandemic helps shape and structure that for me.
Believe it or not, I've heard that so many times about this pandemic. And I know it doesn't take away from the woe that we all experienced and how many things changed, but there was a lot of people that took advantage of it. So let's get to an absolute handle on what you do in 2025. To do that, kids always get the truth out of us. I'm going to
Yeah.
put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, and one of the kids is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How would you
Yeah.
encompass and explain that?
Yeah, so I mean, the catchphrase really is I help facilitate the healing of the brokenhearted. So those who have been shattered and fractured, which is literally how I came to this place of restoring and reclaiming our self-worth. And how do you do that? I do that through a breath body practice called yoga. I also help facilitate that through different styles of coaching or workshops. So depending on what my client, my student needs of wherever they're at, I mostly work with high performers, which don't understand the driver behind needing to be a high performer is a lack of self-love and self-care, the not enoughness, the destabilizing pain of I'm not enough and therefore has created this alter ego of high performer. So I help facilitate the healing of the brokenhearted.
So let me ask you this. When you were 12, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream job?
A veterinarian.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, so I did go pursue that in high school. I went and volunteered at a vet, and it was a country. I lived in the country. It was a country vet who had all sorts of animals. One, we had to castrate a pig, and pigs don't get anesthesia, so the pig screamed like I've never heard screaming before, and I knew I couldn't do that. And then I had to go put something in the back freezer. And when I opened it, there was like multiple dogs that had died that were frozen in the freezer, like Pet Cemetery kind of crap. And last thing was that there was a cat that had to get spayed, and they the cat down, and I couldn't. It was like a horror movie, and I
oh yeah.
decided in that moment I don't have the heart, much less be a doctor. No thanks. But I couldn't. So I never pursued that. But I rescued a dog. I've rescued a couple, and even in like I have this huge heart and empathy for those who need help. So. For example, in human trafficking, I'm very passionate about ending human trafficking, and I know I can't go see and do that work physically, be too heartbreaking. So I just write checks. So I write checks for, the USPCA, or, wherever the animals need rescue, or for human trafficking. So I don't have the appetite to go get my hands that dirty, but I just write checks. So I still feel like I'm doing good.
Yeah,
But
for
that's what
sure.
happened to the vet. No veterinarian work here.
Yeah, no, I get it. So let me ask you this. After 26 years of being in an executive sales leadership position in IT, I'm curious how much of living in that corporate world lent to you finding a way of helping people in a different way through yoga and through holistic methods. How did those worlds commingle and make you more potent now?
Yeah, so great question. The cadence I had in the rhythm in corporate of never ending, always performing, nonstop, overdoing that performance, gave me the gift of knowing how to show up in a business, right? So as an entrepreneur, I have that muscle. I also know not to take things personally. I also know as far as we can get ahead with messaging and marketing, I know a lot of that. I know customer service, white glove touch, high level VIP experience. So all of that I've been able to bring into my client's experience. But what the real gift and what was unveiled is in corporate and that high performance was you're chasing and chasing and chasing, and there's not enough accolade or money or reward to fill what is really the emptiness, that void, which is what created that high performer. So I ended up having the experience in yoga. I was having panic attacks at work. I had too much stress, high cortisol. I was going through a horrific divorce. And instead of going into therapy to learn how to heal, I poured myself into work. And that year, I traveled more than I ever had. I had a 4 and a 6-year-old. I moved my mom in with me. Again, just go, go, go. No like stop, pause, reflect, feel. There was none of that. So everything getting suppressed and pushed down, and I'll just go continue to provide for my children and my own brand. I mean, I had a great identity and joy around being a high performer and being successful. But then the bottom fell out. I had an altercation with one of my bosses who threatened my livelihood, my security, and my job. Told me he was going to fire me over this conflict that we had, and I started having panic attacks. And I will go to therapy thinking somebody, will just talk through this and I'll get a game plan and I'll figure out how to make it better and be strategic and do all the business things. And instead, she said, you need to go to yoga to learn how to breathe because the body's dysregulated. And I'm like, yoga schmoga, I don't have time to go lay on a mat and like chant. I was a kickboxer. I would run, I would sprint, I would lift weights and throw heavy things like what we do. I mean, all masculine energy is where I lived. And I didn't want to do yoga, but I am a good student. And I knew to get better from the panic attacks, to be able to perform better in my career, I had to go handle my business. So I went to yoga and divine intervention. I didn't go to the yin yoga or the restorative yoga. I go to what was called vinyasa power flow. I don't know what it is. But the teacher literally mopped me up. I mean, it was up and down and rigorous and handstands and jump backs and literally like yoga burpees. It was insanity. And I loved it because I couldn't keep up. And I was challenged in a way that I wasn't challenged in a regular type of workout. But slowly by each class, each layer of me that was this projection of badass and have it all together started to fall away. And there was a little girl that hadn't been through the healing process, that had been abandoned and betrayed, that needed a lot of love and attention that only I could give to myself. And in that yoga space where it was quiet and the doors are closed and the lights are low, and at the end of the rigorous flow, you come into a slower pace and you sink back to a child's pose. And one day I just started to cry. And I cried so much that I was a little bit shocked of like, what the hell's happening? A little embarrassed. Like, I hid myself in the little towel they give you. And I had to wait till the whole room was empty because I had so much shame of like, what is this? Literally the breaking down of all the things that were holding me together, which was just a synthetic facade of success. It was built by fear. It was built from the betrayal of if no one else can do it for me, I'll do it myself. The isolation of self. So I found myself piece by piece, class by class, restoring this faith in me, this renewed relationship with me, and this love that had never been there, never ever existed, one for myself or from anyone else, because it always came from external. I do this, I perform this way, you will reward me, you will either compensate me or you will love me. And honestly, none of it was real. It's just like it was like charades. So yoga is how I found my own purpose, my own voice, my own breath. And then that in turn changed how I showed up in my business world. Like, hello, there is a boss lady here on my terms, on my conditions. And so the culmination of all this came together. It's really like a rebirth, if you will, birthed out a new version of me that was better than I could ever dream of because
Yeah.
she was no longer broken. She was finally whole. So, in that wholeness, both parts, the 26 years of corporate America and the battle to be the best, and into the discovery that I already am the best. I don't have to do anything to be amazing. I already am.
Wow, what a great answer. Let me ask you this. Who has been that inspirational force for you to find your footing, your true voice in life?
Yeah, great question. So, from a spiritual perspective, Jesus, for sure, the example of unconditional love and the one who would go rescue the wounded. He didn't go look for the masses, he looked for the one. I definitely relate to that. I have been spiritual my whole life and have always had a calling to help, not just, I mean, first it was to help others outside of me because I always had the compassion for that. I learned that from my grandmother who did a lot of ministry, a lot of prison ministry and homeless ministry. She was also a yogi. But then to understand, like, it still has to start with us. Like, we have to rescue us first before we can help rescue the wounded. And then second would be from a dynamic, explosive growth would be Tony Robbins. I've been a student of him for many years, and his where he's been and where he goes, and how deep he goes, and how vulnerable he is, and how authentic he is, and the example he brings to every arena. To see each person singularly, similar to Jesus, right? There's one in the room that needs to be seen, heard, loved, reminded. So putting those two powerful men together that live in that divine masculine and divine feminine in such perfect synchronicity gives me the desire, the hope to be a part of that lineage of healers.
So let me ask you this. What has your philosophy historically been on work-life balance? You got to take care of your soul and your family, but you also have to do your job at a high caliber. What is that motivation every day for you to wake up? Do you find an equilibrium? How do you parlay those out?
Yeah, in corporate, I had none. I mean, I came in last. Everything else came first. It was a lot of scarcity. It was a lot of fear-based, and that was culturally conditioned. It wasn't just to get the accolade and be on the leaderboard. That was cool reward, but then there was also discipline. You were threatened constantly about your performance. If you didn't meet metrics, you would lose your job, and they had no problem firing you. You were literally just a number, just a widget. There was no family to it, although they would try to pretend that you were a family member because when push came to shove and you were asked to do something, if you didn't, you were gone. So there is no lifestyle balance there. It was eat when you could. It was rarely sleep. It was constant stress. It was workout. And then there was really no middle for self-care. I didn't even understand what that was. I thought that was like bubble baths and lingerie, which it's certainly not. During the pandemic, I studied the practice of Ayurveda, which is Indian medicine, if you will. It's a sister to yoga. It means knowledge of life. It's this tradition, this ancient wisdom, 5,000 years of wisdom. And it taps into a lot of circadian rhythms. And what I used was these core habits to heal myself and then interlace it into my daily habits today, which are going to bed early. If I'm not on my phone spinning on dopamine, getting hits off of social media that is, again, the synthetic high, I can actually put myself to bed and get a deep rest. If I sleep well, then I'm able to rise with the sun. If I get up with the sun, I'm back into circadian rhythm. So we're following what the body actually needs to perform instead of shoving it full of supplements and chemicals to try to get us to a place where we think we feel good. So, following the patterns and habits of Ayurveda, going into this old lifestyle and wisdom, you can be a better performer. And most importantly, I'm now heart led, where I take care of me first. And if I'm good with me and I'm in integrity with me, if I'm living by the values I believe in, not in ones that corporate America is telling me I need to believe in or do and to be accepted or to be promoted because I have to fit a certain look, wear a cloak, so I fit the corporate America image. Instead, it's all about what do I believe, what do I care about, and when I look in the mirror, am I pleased with myself? And then the alignment comes, and then the people come, and then the revenue comes. It's not fake. And I think we all feel the difference. There's a lot of coaches out there, and they're terrible, and they're just there to make money. And I'm like, I don't align. So I don't dance to the rhythm of corporate rules anymore. I align to what I love the most, which is helping people. And I think it's rewarded from that place of love and care. I give all the shits. I literally give all the shits. Yeah.
It's interesting you bring up the corporate dance. There's such a metaphoric parallelism to the corporate thought kind of leads to traditional medicine, and you're doing things that are considered alternative medicine. How do we get over that? How do we get to a place where we embrace these different ideological methods of healing our wounds and our physical and emotional lives? Because they just, in Western society, corporate worlds, it's as many medicines as you can get on traditional therapies, but there's so many alternatives that exist in the world with what you're doing that is benefiting and it's doing it in a more natural way. How are we going to get over that?
Yeah, so I think that it's a deep inventory and it's a reckoning of what is really happening. Is your life amazing? Are you happy? Are you full of joy? Are you love and connected? Do you look in the mirror and love yourself? Do you feel this authentic connection to the heart, to yourself? And it probably sounds like so foreign to those who haven't done the deep, deep work. Because I would have been like, yeah, you're crazy. Like, who lives like that? Like, what am I going to stay home and do that work all day? Yeah, I mean, maybe. So it begins with just taking the moral inventory. It's when the symptoms of being out of alignment are exhaustion. You feel like crap. You're having trouble in your relationships. You're not able to speak your truth. Like you leave a conversation and you have a lot of resistance in the body and you want to say how you feel, like tell that person exactly how you feel, but you don't. So we've been conditioned to hold it all in and to not speak our truth, which is unfortunate because then we're living a whole lot of lies. So it has to be an awareness, enough is enough moment, a rock bottom, or I can't do this anymore. And if we don't do that ourselves, the symptoms show up bigger. It looks like cancer. It looks like other diagnoses like autoimmune. Body gets inflamed. So if we're not processing the emotions and keeping a regular check-in on who we are and what we believe in and being authentic to ourselves, the body keeps the score. So, or it's emotional, divorce or other things, the financial crises because we're overspending. So, what is it costing us to live in a world that we're just showing up for work to have what we thought was the American dream with the big house and all the cars and all the vacations, but we're miserable inside or the body's breaking down? So mine was an emotional breakdown that was then showing up and manifesting in a physical ailment, which was the panic attacks, because I was absolutely miserable and pretending to the world all over social media I was awesome, which I wasn't. And then I had to start telling the truth because otherwise I would have continued to be unwell. So I'd offer like what is the risk of living out of alignment is you will be unwell emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. Is it worth it? And you don't have to quit your corporate job, but you may want to take some time to sit and start journaling. If you can get on a little mini retreat or a long week retreat, and I don't mean you have to go do psychedelics and go to Peru. I mean, that's one avenue too. That's a little bit of an extreme if there's not integration incorporated, because then you're like, holy shit, I'm not who I thought I was, and I'm very much ethereal. But now, how do I reintegrate? So, there's a lot of ways to go down the path of self discovery, but the first place is to understand and be fully aware that you are not happy or unwell, and then take the next step. Because if we don't do it now, say in your 40s, late 30s, mid 40s, early 50s, it doesn't get better.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't, I promise you.
Yeah.
But it can if you do the work. My life looks 180 degrees different because I've done the work. And there's love, there's joy, there is peace, there is harmony, there is synergy, there's service, there's contribution. There's so much more than I could have ever dreamed of if I just stayed in a corporate role pretending that I was okay.
So let's say you have a dream tonight, run into the 18-year-old version of you ready to charge out into the world and to do all these wonderful things. And you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated. What
Yeah.
advice would you give?
To continue to hear your own voice, to make the time and space to be in a stillness, to listen to that voice, and then take that action. So, what is the thing that's inspiring you? Where do you want to go? How do you want to grow? And how do you want to contribute? And then go do the thing. You have to move into momentum, into motion. Otherwise, nothing will happen, right? We continue to stay stuck. So, we need inspired action to move forward. So, I've had big, wild dreams. I've done amazing, crazy, wild things. And now I get to do it with authenticity from the heart. So I'd say to that 18-year-old girl, believe in yourself. And you don't need anyone else to believe in you. You don't need the cheering squad. You don't need the victory dance at the end of the lap, because it will all be so much a part of the reward of the whole journey. But she has to believe in herself, and she has to find that dream and then light it the F up
Yeah.
and then never stop running.
So let me ask you this. If you were to walk into a room of everybody that knew you in a corporate sense for 26 years, and you could swim through that group of people, go to a podium and tell them one fun story, one fun adventure, the
Yeah.
first concert you went to, the coolest place, most magical place you've traveled to, just
Yeah.
something that would humanize you to that room, what would be a
Yeah.
fun story you could tell that group?
Yeah, so one of my most favorite, wildly intimate stories, I was in South Africa in 2019 on a sabbatical. I took a break from one of my corporate gigs, and I was there for the lions. And we went to a couple different camps. And the first camp, the lions, if you don't know, between their eating, they sleep and they don't move a lot when they're sleeping. So we saw some cubs, we saw a mom and a dad lion, and they slept. And then we switched camps, and we're out on safari. It's early in the morning. And I'm sorry, it's in one of the sunset ones. And we hear over the walkie-talkie system, there's two males. And I was like, how old are they? I don't want the babies. I want the big ones. Two males, 7 years old. What are they doing? They're hunting. Let's go. So we quickly pull up, and there's one off who has a fresh kill. It has this little baby. It looks like a baby fawn, and you can't see so much, but you can see him literally tearing it apart. And before I went there, I thought, because of my veterinarian experience, I was like, it will be so gross. I won't be able to watch. Oh, no, no, no. I was literally like, let me in there. It's primal. You're
Yeah.
in this potentially they believe could be the Garden of Eden in Botswana. So sacred land, super stunning. And as we drive up, and we can't get so close because we got to make sure he's not going to come and attack us, because we're
Yeah.
threatening he's eating, right? He might not have eaten for a week.
Yeah.
But the brother is right beside us, and they're bigger than you could imagine. Their heads are like the size of half of my body. And he walks, and he's like, one step, and he's all vascular, lean, muscle, huge, literally the king. And I'm like sweating. So my body goes in like straight up fight flight. I'm purging sweat, and he's right beside me. But he couldn't be bothered. He
Right.
knows he's going to eat. I'm not a threat to him, but he wants to go eat. So we get a little closer, and the one has it. And I have pictures on my Instagram from a couple years ago, and he's just pulling apart, and he's got blood all over him, and his eyes are these amber hazel, like red and orange. They're like glowing, probably some hormone that's running coursing through his veins from the hunt. The brother comes and he gets closer, and the one who has the animal is the carcass is not gonna let him. He gets up and he roars, and I'm like, yes! Like it was the most wild, most intense, most beautiful thing of the predator and
Yeah,
the food chain and survival, and it was just so primal and just ran through my bones, through my
that's
blood,
amazing.
and yeah, so finally to finish the story, the brother gets closer, the one who has it spins around, doesn't want him to eat, and then the last picture I have is the one still eating, and the one who just wants to eat is like licking the paw of the brother, like a little blood that's on his paw. He's not getting anywhere close to like actual meat. And anyway, I left there thinking, I will never be the same.
Yeah, that's
I
amazing.
mean, yeah, like life and the energy of that space. And
Yeah,
so we have to find moments to be taught, to be inspired, to be set on fire, and the dirt and the dust in the sky and all of that happening. And it was just such an honor to that they allowed us to witness it. You know, they knew how close we were and they
yeah,
let us come in
yeah.
just so we could be a part of that whole ecosystem. Super cool.
So speaking of the fire, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your
Yeah.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am the fire element beyond because here's the thing, fire isn't just the burning heat and the extreme heat. Because what's really cool is at the end of the fire when it's just the embers and there's that little blue, not that bright orange, it's that blue is the hottest. So when it's least aware, like when don't even know that it's there, is when it's burning the hottest. You know, I'm a survivor, I'm a fighter, I'm a protector, I'm a provider. I go above and beyond, and I go beyond the call of duty, and I always will. And now I know that that calling isn't just for the greater good of serving the collective; it's to serve me first. So I run hot and I burn hot, but I do it because I have to. It's just who I am.
So if anyone wants to reach out, hire you, any questions, any of the good business, where do they go?
Thank you so much. JKS Yoga is my handle. My business is transforming into high frequency yoga, will be the brand that will be in the next couple months. But jksyoga.com. I'm on Instagram. It is going to be at high frequency underscore yoga as we're transitioning that. My name is Jennifer Kenney-Smith. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'd love for them to reach out. I'm excited to meet some of your listeners, and I'm so
Yes.
grateful for this time together.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Jennifer, I love the fierce energy. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Looking to get new clients to your business through cold calling or email marketing? At Agency Y, they envision a world in which small and big companies have equal chances to win new customers in the market. Their purpose is to bring parity and reduce the gap between large and small firms with the help of their cold calling and cold email marketing services. Use the code Joe Dimino 10 at www.agencyyy.org/coldcallingjoe.php or www.agencyyy.org/emailmarketingjoe.php to get 10% off your first order. This is Joe Dimino of Neon Jazz and Famous Interviews, and I stand behind Agency Y to meet your business dreams.